since I've done a YouTube video, so I thought, today's the perfect day. I am sitting on some rocks in a pile of rocks on a beach of rocks on a couple of islands of rocks. I am in New Zealand, and I am at this place called Flat Rock in Puanui maybe? And, I was just thinking that I've never really introduced myself, never really said how I got here, how RightTurns with RoadRunning Rita came into existence, and it is a long story, but I'm not going to go into all that. But I will tell you that like 7-8 years ago, I was at the height of what society would say is a successful life. I had the big house, the big job, fast cars, boats, multiple sets of initials behind my name, long-term marriage, house full of pets. I had it all, When the holidays came, there was not a spot where Christmas was not, and I was very happy with that, or at least I thought. And then life showed up, and after a series of, whether you want to call it speed bumps or roadblocks or potholes or sinkholes or dead ends, whatever, or hard rights, after a series of just unexpected turns of events, I found myself at a very, very dark place, a very dark hole that I was having a hard time getting out of. And I went to bed, and after navigating all the changes in my life, I went to bed, and I was faced with a choice of what I was going to do next. And, I was older. Oh, and I got breast cancer. I forgot to mention that. So, I was like 57, 58 when that happened. And, of course, there were voices in my head telling me, you're too old, your life is over, what are you going to do now? All those things that were going to give you security have failed you. So I was left, I got to the end of myself. Let's just put it that way. I got to the very end of myself, and frankly, I didn't know what I was going to do. And someone introduced me to, I don't know how it happened. I saw a video, probably a Bob Wells video, and I started hearing about van dwelling and van camping and van life. And it was right around the time that that girl Gabby, it was right after COVID, and I was scared to death when I first got out there, but I'm like, you know what? I've been through scary shit in my life. Sleeping in my van on the side of a mountain does not scare me. So I took the back seats out of my back. I took the backrest out of the back seats of my Corolla, and I put a mattress in. I got a little cooler. I got some things that made me have the illusion of being able to protect myself. And I started driving, and my first trip was 10 days, and I loved it. And then I went on a trip for 5 weeks up the northeast coast of the United States, and I loved it even more. So I decided to get a bigger vehicle, and I bought a minivan, a soccer mom van, a family van, and it was like being in a mansion. And I went in that van to the southeast, to Nova Scotia, and back to Florida. I'm from Florida. And then I went to I decided to go full-time and get rid of the rest of the stuff that, I had hung on to after my marriage fell apart. And I decided to go full-time in the van. And I went from Florida to the Texas coast, to California, up the California coast, to Vancouver Island, through Canada, the Yukon Territory, made it to Alaska, met a gal that I'd met on Facebook, on a Facebook group, met her there, and spent the summer in Alaska and the Canadian Rockies, and I came back to the United States on September 1st. That was in 24. And I knew then that my life was forever changed. I still struggled with depression, but I didn't suffer anymore. I thought that you can be depressed seeing beautiful things just as easy as you can be depressed behind closed curtains. So I went down to Mexico a year ago last November, and spent the winter in Mexico by myself. I did have a good support system, but I drove down there. I was pretty much traveling alone. I went back over the border in April of last year, and my plan was to go to the Great Lakes. And I got a text asking me if I wanted to come to Melbourne, Australia, and I said, why, yes I do. And that was probably the first hard right turn that I took that was not, traumatic. It was actually pretty terrific. So I ended up going to Australia, and originally my trip was going to be 3 months rather. And I got there and I'm like, that's a long flight. I need to see if I need to stay as long as I can and try to make it work. So I changed my return flight, canceled it, and I had a credit and they let you have, the airline lets you have a credit, and it's good for 1 year from the date that you originally purchased it. So it expired just last month in May. And since then, I spent 5 months in Australia, camping and staying at hostels and meeting people at the Bad Coffee Club, and doing couch surfing and just living like a teenager. I hadn't been this free since I was 17, 18 years old, maybe 21. And then I remembered that I had always dreamed about coming to New Zealand and Australia, but I remembered I had dreamed about coming to New Zealand, and I thought, let's see if we can make it work. And the flights were really inexpensive. So I flew to New Zealand in November of last year. Actually, it was the 28th of November, 2025. And today is June 13th of 2026. So I've been here a little over 7 months, almost 7 months. And I will be leaving to go back to Australia the end of July. I would have never expected that my life would venture off the way it has. And I'm here to tell you, if your life has taken hit a drastic pothole or a speed bump or a dead end or a detour or, a major curve or a hard right turn, it's not over. It's not over. You would be surprised if you just hang in there. If you have a little bit of hope, and hope is hang on, pain ends, your life can be better than what you've ever imagined that it could be. And for the first time in a long time, now I'm 63, and a lot of years have gone by since I was a teenager, obviously. But I am more excited about my life and what I'm doing and what my future might hold. More excited than I've been in years. And I have an enthusiasm for possibilities. And you can too, just hang in there. Just do one thing. If you can make one better decision for yourself, just to get yourself out of that funk, that hole, that pit, that despair, and listen, I was in bed 3 days this week for hours. Was I in bed all day? No, because I had someone that was depending on me to get up and take her for a walk. But there are days that, it's challenging. But those days are fewer and farther between than they used to be. And as long as I'm healthy, as long as I can see and I have the curiosity, the childlike wonder, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep making those right turns with Road Running Rita. I'm going to keep running the road. I'm going to keep enjoying whatever life has in store for me. And hopefully, I'll be able to help some people along the way. So that was a long 12 minutes. And I hope that you stayed till the end. And thanks for coming.